Hey, so I am going to do another video request again from quite a while ago. So, again, thank you always for these interesting topics because if you're interested in it, chances are there's going to be others that are also interested in this topic. So, this one comes from an inevitable success. So, thank you. And it is on INTJs dealing with breakups when the relationship is over. And they go on to mention just how the head rules, but feelings are still there regardless of trying to detach from them and passing through lonely periods and feeling isolated. And I'm not sure about all the folks out there, but if you usually are at a certain age in life, you've been in a relationship that potentially did not work out. And no matter what, they are something that takes a good chunk out of you. It is very difficult, and that's my cat. So, Dolly, what are you doing? Anyways, so I wanted to get into this because I think this is a really interesting point to make because this does, I would argue, potentially differentiate the INTJs from, say, the majority of other MBTI folks that are in like the majority of society. So, especially with regards to the way we internalize things um, and how we move forward. So things that jumped out to me um, is that it really doesn't matter, I feel, if it's either you are the one breaking up with them or someone is broken up with you. Because for an INTJ, at least female for me, um, regardless if you've allowed someone into your life enough that a breakup would cause that kind of pain and questioning, it is usually that relationship has gone behind, excuse me, the I'm going to call it the paywall. So that that piece that separates most of us from the majority of other people in our lives. So, someone within that intimacy, especially as a partner, partners have that added benefit of being all encompassing in your different aspects of your person. And so that is going to be difficult. And I can speak with experience on this when it comes to trying to make sense of things that have led to the point that one or the other person has decided to end something. There, at least from the INTJ standpoint, you don't do it callously or fickly. It's something that has been weighing in your mind. Um, Unfortunately, maybe not due to emotional processing, but looking at it from every different angle and seeing that there was no way to get over the key points that would ultimately uh, end the relationship. So that part is very difficult when it comes to the length of time trying to move through that. And I know for myself, one thing that is difficult for me is processing emotion. I have a very difficult time even knowing what emotion is in there because I am mostly looking at angles of trying to make to have made something better or to figure out something that I might have missed. And that really takes away, it goes from an external, like having, like how I feel personally, to it's always working on the work side of things in my brain. Instead of absorbing and trying to see what is that yucky feeling that is inside. And the thing that I find personally difficult is a lot of people try and just stuff it down. And I definitely have at different points in my life. Obviously, we all know that it definitely does come up, as a pressure cooker does. But I think INTJs potentially have another issue, because if you can't even address the different feelings you're having, if you don't know how to label and internalize what you're feeling and what those emotions are, it's very difficult to keep moving on. So you kind of end up in this constant thinking loop that is really not getting you anywhere, because it's like a problem that just isn't checked off. It's not fixed. And that's very difficult, for at least for myself. Do I have answers for that? No. I think time is the number one thing. I've had a relationship that was a very, very long on and off, and it was very, it wasn't a great relationship, but I wanted to keep trying to make sense of things, and it kept me attached to that person just because I kept thinking about what angle did I miss? Did I, it's not what did I do wrong so much as did I not look at something the right way? Am I obtuse on some point that could have been the elixir to make everything better? And one thing I have learned in my age is that there is no magic thing, that it's compounded, and we have to kind of take away that personal responsibility that, at least for me, I feel pretty heavily. I have a really tough time assigning blame to someone else in the relationship, even though it takes two people to make relationships dynamic happen. So if anyone wants to dive in more about that part of things, please put that in the comments section. We'll always love to hear video requests, obviously. The other thing that I think too is that because INTJ females, at least, we have very few friends behind that paywall as well. So, and we usually are trying to figure things out for ourselves. We get so entrenched in that feedback loop, especially with that internal feeling component, that we forget even how to reach out. We're not the ones that are gonna like, oh my gosh, they broke up with me, or oh my gosh, I had to break up with him finally, and we go race to have brunch with a girlfriend and bawl our heads off. There might be some of those situations with dear friends, but lots of times we're trying to work things out internally because we're very private as well. And maybe in the past we have found that reaching out to someone, it usually can bring up some insecurities about the differences in how we approach relationships compared to some person that we're leaning on for that, who might be one of those majority type personalities in the female world, and they look at it way differently. So they might be quick to judge or maybe belittle, and when we're reaching out, we're very sensitive, especially about someone that we let in, because it automatically makes the assumption that something's faulty potentially in our vetting process for our own person. There's a lot of existential stuff that can actually come out of this. So it is, a little bit difficult. Although I have to say, no matter what, I would rather live with the experience of going and having that type of relationship, because every time those come in and you're open to what could happen and also what negative could happen, it expands you a little bit more, especially in that piece that we're pretty blind about on the feeling side. Oof, I just had deja vu here. The other thing that I kind of touched on, but I want to bring up again, is just the kind of a feeling. We can say, hey, yeah, it's their fault if we want to talk, like make key statements to people when they say, oh, what, where's so-and-so, and you have to mention, yeah, we're not together anymore. And you have to create a basic soundbite of all the myriad things that are in your head and try and make it succinct enough so you can kind of just get it off the plate and continue to have it inside without other people kind of weighing in, speaking to what I just spoke to earlier. Another piece that I wanted to bring up is the isolation component. So this is where the negative aspect of not being able to make sense of things and then having our brain internally try to understand something cognitively that is actually it's a chemical response, biological. There's a lot of things that go into that. Actually, a good note I should mention is something you might want to take a look at is the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve is the largest nerve in your body. And if you haven't looked into it all, I would highly suggest looking into it, because it is one that actually, it's that whole mind body bit, but it actually does wrap around your stomach area. So that constriction, when it's too tight, actually causes those hormones receptors going into your brain and telling your brain, and your brain is telling your emotions or your mind on this additional feedback loop. So there's a lot of very easy things, including deep belly breathing, where you make sure to have a really long exhale from a very distended stomach, and also placing maybe your hand on your stomach at the same time and a hand on the heart too, because there is some sort of grounding type of feeling that comes out of that. And I don't want to get into all of that because I don't know enough, but I do find that does feel helpful, and it's something that's tangible, and you can do it anywhere. You can do it in your car while you can feel the seat belt resist against it, so you know you're doing it. But the last point I wanted to talk about is the isolation. So all of these are difficult so much because we normally like to spend a large amount of time alone. We have a lot of, stuff happening up here. It's a party for a lot of a lot of different components in the brain. So that does feel good when you're feeling okay. But when you're coming off of a huge cortisol depression, so you are dealing with this rush of anxiety going into maybe breaking up or being broken up with, and then that anxiety that comes out, all that kind of that biological component that's mixed into that slurry of feelings that you don't know how to label, and that on top of being isolated makes it almost feel like that isolation is now more enhanced. And I'll get to the fact that you don't have a person there anymore, but that isolation is more noticeable around you. You're not in your head as much. You're now getting into more of that sensory, that weird component that you're not used to, like looking around and noticing that it's just you. And with that, it's really hard. I've had an experience with that where I really had a difficult time. And this was with someone that I didn't spend a large amount of time with, but I was in a very negative relationship. So I was dealing with self-worth issues and that type of deal on top of it. So it wasn't healthy. But I noticed that I had to learn how to do something simple, like lay on my own couch and take a nap. And I couldn't do it without something in the background. So I actually would put on golf, or I would put on back when we had cable, those sounds of nature. Now you could just do it on your phone, but and I had to try, and it was very difficult to sit with myself. Very difficult to just have that nap. I had really focused on the sun coming in. I made sure that I had a comfy, sofa throw over me. And it was just a sadness, and it didn't give release, but it gave me something I was working on. And I'm sorry that these don't sound very positive, because really, truly, the only thing that helps is time. It really does. It does go away. It absolutely does. But it could take years. But the other piece of the isolation, you obviously would know, is you don't have that other person there. You don't have the other person that's picking up the other half of your sentence, the person that you're going to make a real note in your mind, where it's like that person that, would pick something up for you, or, do certain things that makes your life a little bit easier, and you would be doing things for them, and you have that feeling of being a caring person, and being able to emote onto that person, and explore those feelings that are also kind of a rush of adrenaline, because you have those feelings of care, active care, and that's not there anymore. And you start to wonder how little you are willing to put up with in order to kind of get it back sometimes, even if you are the one that ended it. So those components are difficult, and I find, especially with INTJs, for myself at least, because we don't maybe take the opportunity to say no, you're not good, it's not good. And instead kind of internalize it on ourselves. We double down on those vulnerable times when we notice how much that person isn't in our life. They're not going with us to the movies on Saturdays, or that type of thing, or especially going to social gatherings. You don't have your buffer anymore, and that's a tough one for a lot of us. So with that, I have to say the best thing that ever happened for me in those situations, I have a really amazing friend, and she actually forced me, and it wasn't for me. She wanted to go out and meet up with some of our mutual friends, and I, of course, am like, no, I don't feel great at all. I don't want to go, and I don't like that stuff anyways. And she's like, no, you're doing it for me. I'm interested in a guy that's there, and I totally want to go. And so it was like, okay, I went, and I ended up having a really great time, and I ended up just truly enjoying myself, because they had nothing to do with that relationship, and they weren't asking me questions about it. So I was able to just kind of, it's escaping, but in a way it's healing, because you're feeling that absorption of positive energy from people around you, and you're taking in things that you don't even realize you're taking in, and things that you remember. Like this example that I'm speaking to is about 15 years old, and man, that ages me. But point is that those types of things, like going against what you want to do, which is isolate. And I would love to say journal and do all that stuff, but we do that stuff already, and sometimes it's just, you need to get out. Even if you're going down a busy sidewalk and, count the amount of people that are wearing hats, things like that, something that keeps you looking out, absorbing other things in a positive way, not in a negative situation. Last thing I'm going to say, and this is something that I absolutely just learned in this last year. My teenage daughter, who is my little emotional guru, she is an INFP. She is the opposite of me when it comes to emotions. She knows everything about them. And one thing she really taught me was the power of crying. And because I don't like to cry naturally, it's something that's automatic to me. I just, it's not a thing. If I do cry, it is something that is very built up. And she jokes that she would cry over water that's boiling. And I found that interesting. She likes the release of crying. I always thought, oh, it just makes my eyeballs puffy and I look disgusting for work the next day. And on top of it, now everyone knows that I'm walking around sporting a breakup face. So, but the way she has kind of shown me just through herself is that it's true crying, and it's crying and being okay to just cry, like full on cry, not trying to stop, just cry. And it is something that is really it's been kind of cathartic. I don't like that it's crying is usually just because you're feeling some negative stuff, but at the same time, it is something that helps with the release and helps with that tightening of the vagus and that type of thing. So, anyways, I hope that sheds a little bit of my personal thoughts and experience on the subject of breakups and the reality of being part of society. And as always, love to hear your comments, and hope I will be sending out another one shortly. Thank you.